10 things you need to know about Gears 5. Gears of War 5 was one of the games that was announced by Microsoft at this year's E3. It's one of the major upcoming Microsoft games and is surely shaping up to be one of the biggest games of 2019. So let's take a look at 10 things you need to know about Gears 5. Not Gears of War 5. One of the interesting changes that some have noticed about this new installment has to do with its title, since it's simply called Gears 5 and not Gears of War 5, as many had expected. This was clarified by the Coalition's head, Rod Ferguson, on Twitter. Initially, Ryan McCaffrey from IGN asked what prompted the change in the naming convention, and Ferguson responded by stating that it had to do with the series' growth and for the sake of simplicity. Ferguson said, "Gears of War is still the franchise name, but now that we're doing a family of products, it made sense to shorten the titles down. Gears Pop, Gears Tactics, and Gears 5. Plus, we always just call it Gears anyway, so it feels good to simplify." Furthermore, the name on the box art will also be Gears 5. This certainly makes sense, and it looks like future games in the series will also be named in a similar fashion, but that's a long time away from now. Kate is the lead character. First of all, we know why Kate was chosen to be the protagonist in the game. The developer stated that it felt like a natural progression for Kate to be the protagonist in this game, since even in Gears of War 4, the game was about finding Kate's mother and JD was just around to help her. Returning characters. Besides Kate Diaz, Gears 5 will see the return of Gears of War 4 protagonist JD Phoenix, Delmont Walker, and Marcus Phoenix. Oscar is expected to return given he survived. We can also assume that Baird, Cole, and Sam will return as well, given how they appeared in Gears of War 4. The studio's most ambitious game yet. Gears 5 will be the most ambitious game the Coalition has made, Rod Ferguson claims, and it will follow a war for humanity on two fronts. One across what is being called the biggest and most beautiful world in series history, and one within Kate, who carries a pendant that seems to be a Locust symbol and may be coming under Locust influence without knowing about it. Open world aspects. In an interview with Jeff Keighley during E3 2018, Aaron Greenberg, head of marketing at Xbox, discussed some new details about the game. He stated that the world in this game will be a much bigger, bolder world. Additionally, Greenberg also goes on to reveal that the game will feature a different color palette and that there will also be more open world aspects in the game. The latter sounds really interesting, as this could result into side missions and perhaps optional bosses. Xbox One X enhancements. Speaking to Wired, studio head Rod Ferguson stated that Gears 5 will target 60 FPS and 4K on the Xbox One X. Our target is always 60 FPS, and we believe with everything we've done, the learnings we've taken from Gears 4 and the optimizations we've been able to do beyond that, that's exactly what we're going to be doing, 60 FPS at 4K. PC can scale up to 120 FPS. PC players too will have many different types of options to choose from. Having a game that we're building from the ground up for PC players will be able to take advantage of all types of different PC optimization options you can have. Ferguson also noted that the studio can usually get to 120 frames per second. You'll be able to max it quite high. It's still reasonably early, but we can usually get to 120 FPS. It's obviously going to matter what hardware you're using to get to that, but it'll be able to scale up that high if the hardware can push it. This seems to indicate that the Coalition are still getting a handle on the specs required for that frame rate. Optimization is still important at this stage, especially since Gears 5 will be releasing in 2019. If it did manage to effectively double the Xbox One X's frame rate, then it would certainly help the Windows 10 version stand out as a worthwhile alternative. The Warden. The official Gears of War Twitter account has given out new details on a new type of enemy that players will be coming up against in the game, along with a short GIF to let us see what it looks like. The Warden is a scion that once used to be a Locust and is a heavily armored brute that uses two crystallized axes as its main weapons. Don't get close to this one, the tweet warns. The heavily armored bit is obviously suggesting that the Warden is going to be tough to take down, while its weapons also look suitably badass. The Swarm Flock. The Swarm Flock is a swarm, surprise, of flying leeches. As per the tweet by the developer, these are going to be your worst nightmare. We actually caught a slight glimpse of them in the game's reveal trailer at E3 2018. If their movement is as unpredictable and dynamic as this short snippet suggests, then they very well may be a worthy adversary indeed. Gears 5 is what the Coalition really wanted to do. Gears of War 4 was a solid game, there's no doubt about it, but the issue that people cited with it most often was that it stuck too closely to the formula of the franchise and didn't really try anything new. In spite of the series having been handed over by Epic Games to the Coalition, a new studio, Gears was still, well, Gears. With Gears 5 though, the Coalition are really going to change things up. Speaking in an interview with YouTube channel Nerd Bunker, the Coalition boss Rod Ferguson said that with Gears of War 4, the studio wanted to prove itself, and now that it has done just that and shown everybody that they can indeed build an authentic Gears of War experience, with Gears 5 they're going to be much more ambitious, both in terms of storytelling and gameplay mechanics. Basically, it was a reaction to what we want to do with the franchise, Ferguson said. We were a new team and a new studio. Gears was coming back after being on the shelf for a while, and we didn't want to mess with the formula. We didn't want to change it too much because we wanted to prove that we could build an authentic Gears of War experience. Now that we have done that and people have accepted Gears 4, now it is an opportunity with Gears 5 to bring in the new. We really want to show what we want to do with the franchise and where we want to take it. Whether it is changing core mechanics, the way we do storytelling, or the way to make certain aspects around controls and gameplay, or whether it is reaching with new types, gameplay, mobile, and tactics on PC.